The following program is a special presentation of VH1 Classic.
Credibility is a loser's word.
We were hungry, but it wasn't a hunger for money. It was a hunger to rock. We were hungry to be Kiss.
Tell you what's credible, more credible than the biggest credibility word, is for a band to go out there and pee on the ground and claim their territory like a wild animal does.
We wanted it. And again, it wasn't about fame and it wasn't about fortune. We wanted to be Kiss.
We took things from Las Vegas, from American pop culture, did as we damn pleased, wore the highest shoes and boots, and wore dog collars around our necks, and took big Las Vegas signs and blinded you in the face, and didn't care if you liked it or not. We knew it was good.
I got to tell you guys, Kiss is the band that really started it all and really made me become a music junkie more than 30 years ago. I remember vividly getting my first Kiss album in elementary school, a copy of Kiss Destroyer, just staring at that cover and listening to the intro to Detroit Rock City. And from then on out, I was obsessed with all things Kiss. So it's really with genuine excitement that I tell you about the new Kissology Volume 1, 1974 through 1977. It's a 6-hour, 2-DVD box set that contains seldom-seen high points of history, including significant, never-before-available material drawn from the band's own personal video vaults. And it's available in the VH1 Classic section of Walmart stores and other fine music retailers. There's stuff on here I can tell you I've never seen, and to be honest with you, I thought I'd seen it all. There's also, of course, 4 full concerts, 70-plus performances, all digitally restored with a 5.1 audio mix that's just sensational. It's really a great treat for Kiss fans, as was my recent time with Gene and Paul at the Henson Recording Studios in Los Angeles. So guys, this is truly an amazing collection. Really, as a lifelong Kiss fan, this is kind of like the holy grail of Kiss DVDs. 2-disc set, 74 to 77. It really is something. And I want to start with disc 1, and I guess Easter eggs are what they're commonly called, hidden features on DVDs. It's not too hard to find the ones on this DVD, but when you do, at least on disc 1, it really is something that I had never known existed. It's performance footage of you guys at Coventry in Queens, still a club act at that point. Where was that footage, and take us back to that time and what was going on with the band at that point?
Well, the footage actually was in the possession of Bill Aucoin, our original manager, and he had it for safekeeping. And when we talked about this project and the whole idea of putting out a really soup to nuts, so to speak, box set, it was obvious that that belonged in it. You know, to some people, that's the holy grail. You know, we were at a point in our careers at that point where we had enough money given to us by the record company to get some new amps, and we knew that you know, the good ship Kiss was about to sail. You know, and for us it was exciting because we knew that we could take our cause and this fight for what we believed in worldwide. And it started in New York City, and that particular footage is from Queens, from a club called Coventry.
In '73, a few months before, we were either driving cabs or working in an office and making, in essence, $75 a week. That was our salary to quit our day jobs and start doing Kiss full time. All of a sudden, a record company that's yet to be born called Casablanca decides we're going to be their debut group, their first release. We don't have top 10 singles, we don't play the game, we don't look like John Denver or anybody else at that point. Here's a band that's in your face. Everything was happening so fast and so big, we went from barely able to afford to pay the $200 a month rent that we were paying at a loft in downtown Manhattan, and all of a sudden having thousands of dollars to buy Marshall amplifiers, just like the bands we had seen all over in concert stages. And all of a sudden we're on stage in a small club wearing full outfits, Kiss outfits, with big 8-inch platform heels. And to say that we were aware of anything else except how we looked, I'd look across the stage and I'd see, wow, that's Paul Stanley, look at that. And there's Ace Frehley. Wow, we look cool. There was an amazing transformation. You were just aware, you know, Earth, here we are. Mm-hmm. There was that blossom. The audience, it wouldn't matter if we were playing to 100,000 people or 300 people. We were Kiss.
One of the earliest performances on here is, the only performance on here that is not on a Kiss album, is a song called Acrobat, early on in, I believe, Long Beach, California. And I thought that was really interesting because being a fan of all of your music, I picked out little bits and pieces of other songs within this extended jam session. Talk about the origins of that. I think it's a really unique piece to the DVD.
The genesis of the song, it was happening at the same time. I had written a song called Too Young, which had various sections, harmonies, lyrics, and so on. Ace had come up with a beginning riff, and then Paul added to that, and somehow, because we had club shows, we had to figure out how to play longer songs, shorter songs. We didn't have any rules. We didn't think about the 3-minute song. This song went on for as long as 7 minutes sometimes. So we stuck on Ace's beginning bit with the rest of my song, and there was a time change and a different riff change and a key change, and there were modulations and accents and time, and then drum solos. How we kept track of what was coming or what was going, nobody knows to this day. In point of fact, the title has nothing to do with anything. Acrobat was just the title of the song. Could have just as easily been called Too Young, which is one of the lyric chorus bits. And when we eventually recorded Acrobat, the producers, Kerner Wise, said, in Europe, love themes are very popular. Love theme from this and love theme from that. We're going to get rid of the rest of the song, which we recorded, and we're just going to use that instrumental bit, and that's how Love Theme from Kiss came to be. I still hate that title.
And you feel that there's parts of Acrobat that Paul used for Detroit Rock City. I know that's a bit of a debate there.
He will never cop to that.
Gene believes he invented the wheel, so nothing surprises me.
As you watch the chronological order of this DVD, that stage gets bigger and more props start showing up on it. And Gene, you start to take on a role with the breathing of the fire and the spitting of the blood. Talk about when that first came on your radar as to something you thought was a good idea to do, because I imagine after your hair went up once or twice, you made, well, maybe we should kill that part of it.
Before we ever went out on tour, not all the ideas came from us. You know, we came up with the makeup, the name, the logos. We thought we had it all. It was a team. There was a guy named Sean Delaney who actually saw that we did something every once in a while and said, you should do it more and you should stick it in this piece. So the Motown-ish kind of rocking back and forth, every once in a while one of us or two of us would start doing it. He said, no, that's good. Do that more.
And do it every time you do the song. Mm-hmm. You know, it shouldn't be left to chance. When you're doing Deuce, at that part of the song, 3 of you go to the front. You know your man is working hard. He's right by Deuce. I can remember thinking, boy, that's lame. You know, that's corny. It's so corny that every band still does it. You know, we really were and try to remain a team. So back to Gene.
And Bill Aucoin actually pointed out something about the makeup and the mystique part of it that we didn't realize. The makeup was so big and so iconic, even though we hadn't realized it before, that Aucoin said, you really should hide your identities off stage. For people, you should be Kiss 24 hours a day. So there began the long trek of being tortured. We had to hide the fact that we were Clark Kent. We wanted people to always remember us only as Superman. And Bill Aucoin had another guy who he worked with named Neil Bogart, who was the president of Casablanca Records. And together, they thought we're so big, so over the top, everything is over the top, magic should be a part of it. And it might have been Neil Bogart who said, I want the drum platform with all the drums to levitate up in the air without seeing strings attached. So we had a magician come in and figure out how to do it behind the curtain and stuff like that. So by the time we went out to open fourth on the bill on our debut New York City performance, it was Kiss, Flaming Youth, right?
It was Kiss, Teenage Lust.
Teenage Lust, Iggy Pop, and Blue Oyster Cult, New Year's Eve, 73, 74. What those people saw was a band that was on stage only 30 minutes. In that time, I spit fire, caught my hair on fire. They thought it was part of the show. I threw something into the audience, which later resulted in an accident, which put somebody else on fire. There were bombs going off. The drum platform raised up, and they didn't have a clue what was going on.
And the cheapest effect of all, I split my pants, and it didn't cost it.
That's true. That's true. And we had a Kiss logo that blinded them, and the other bands had never seen a band come out with a big lit logo like, what do you guys think, you're in Las Vegas? Actually, yes. So that when the next 2 or 3 bands came on stage, as soon as it went to blackout, you could see Kiss printed on the iris of your eye. As soon as it went dark, you'd still see Kiss. So much so that other bands like Argent we would open for, and Savoy Brown and anybody else still weren't smart enough to take down our logo. We came out there like a headliner. It didn't matter if we were opening it or closing it. Now, what did you ask me?
When we do a concert, my feeling is that we really are there praising almighty rock and roll because of all that it makes possible. And I see myself more as an evangelical preacher, just telling everybody, stand up and praise, holy rock and roll and the power it gives us all.
As any Kiss fan can tell you, and trust me, I speak from personal experience here, we've often gone to some great lengths to get our hands on anything related to our favorite group. I remember how many bad bootlegs I bought over the years. Oftentimes, yes, we have settled for, let's just say, less than excellent quality. Well, that all changes with the release of the 6-hour 2-DVD box set, Kissology Volume 1, 1974 through 1977. In addition to 4 full concerts from the peak of the band's first golden era, the DVD set also features early Kiss music videos, rare unreleased tracks, and it's available at the VH1 Classics section of Walmart stores and other fine music retailers. Kissology Volume 1 also includes classic Kiss TV appearances, including the now legendary visit to the Mike Douglas Show in 1974.
During the early 70s, mid-70s, there was a guy named Mike Douglas who was an afternoon variety host who was nice to everybody. We noticed that immediately this variety show was different than the other ones because it started having cool people on, Sonny and Cher and John Lennon and Yoko and people like that. Bill Aucoin, our then manager, had contacted that show, and before we knew it, we were invited to go on there to debut our first album. This was our first big sort of general audience TV show. And we're putting on our makeup backstage. We thought we would just go out and play. Bill Aucoin comes back and says, which one of you guys is going to go out there and talk? And on the stage were Robert Klein, a comedian, Toady Fields, a comedian who was sort of like a female Rodney Dangerfield or something with edge. And somehow or other they decided I should go out there. Now, one of the first things that we did when we were in clubs is I immediately understood that I shouldn't be talking on stage, because if I started talking like this, it would dilute who I was on stage. And early on, it was decided that Paul should talk because he's got the rock star vibe, the look, and the rap, even though initially Peter thought he was going to be the guy talking on stage, but we stopped that right away as soon as you started.
We turned off the mic. That's basically.
Yeah, because a way to open a rock concert is not, hey, how you doing? So we got rid of that right away, and Paul went into the rock star stuff. And here I am walking out on stage not having a clue what we're going to be talking about, and it clearly very fast became a freak show. I was ripped a new immediately by Toady Fields, who said, you know, Mike Douglas said, and what are you supposed to be? I said, I'm evil incarnate. And Toady Fields said, you're probably some nice Jewish boy from Long Island. You can't hide that beak. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It didn't matter. We soon got up on stage and did what we did. Get the fire out! As a matter of fact, recently I saw that. Pretty damn good. If that was a new band, I'd say, who's that?
There's an interesting point, Gene, where Paul says on the commentary track that his friends were asking him, what's it like to be rich and famous? And he says, I can tell you what it's like to be famous, but not rich. The stage show, finally the fans are coming out. The records hadn't sold all that much yet because Alive hadn't happened. Was it a struggle to keep this thing going, to get to Alive? Because the stage show's getting bigger too, so I imagine anything you made was going right back into the machine at that point.
Kiss became so big, so fast, the impression was that we were born out of
Madison Avenue.
Yeah, that we came with millions of dollars, with the biggest entities behind us and all the money in the world.
We were a creation. Yeah. We were a creation of some company or some boardroom on Madison Avenue.
With limitless funds. Here's the statement of fact. We started off, even through the beginning of the tour, we're going, in some places we're headlining. We're making each of us $75 a week, gross. All the rest of the money went right back into debt because the cost of touring and the cost of making records, we weren't selling many in those days, were putting us more and more into the hole. As soon as we started doing a little bit better, our salary literally went up to $85 a week. When we got to San Francisco to do that show, Kiss, Tubes, Rush, it was becoming the end of the tour. There were no places left to play. No band would have us open up for us. We were stuck there at a small hotel, a motel called the Vagabond Inn, and we didn't have enough money to order room service and go out to the grocery store to just even to have a decent meal. So Paul and Peter and one of our roadies would go out and buy hot dogs and beans and cook the stuff in the room just to be able to eat. You're talking about going shopping. You're talking about the impression being much bigger than the actual fact. We drove, we ate, we breathed passion. Money was yet to come. It was years off. We didn't care. We were living the dream. We were Kiss. Nothing to lose. Nothing to lose, baby. Nothing to lose.
We always believe that perception becomes reality. And if people perceive you a certain way, it ultimately becomes so. In the beginning, we would have these walls of amplifiers, and we would tell the guy working the spotlight, don't put a light on them, because we could afford the speaker box, but we couldn't afford the speakers. Right. So if you hit them with a light, you saw these circles because
empty cabinets.
They were empty cabinets. Right. So it really has always been about, if you dream it and you can make it tangible, then that perception will become real. That's why I said to somebody, you know, I can tell you what it feels like to be famous. I can't tell you what it feels like to be rich. I was barely getting by. I didn't have money for shoes. but we were Kiss. And when we hit that stage, we were gods of rock. We went out on stage at Winterland and, you know, preached to the choir, preached to the congregation, and preached to people who were yet to be converted. And it worked the same as always. We knew that when we went out on stage, no matter where we were, we might walk out there to some snickers or people chuckling, but when that show was over, we had some new members of the congregation. It was a great feeling, even going into a town that had notoriously a resistance towards something like what we were doing. But here we are today, and they are all forgotten.
Within the first year of Kiss touring, we were forced to headline. We were forced to headline because the bands we played with kept being blown off the stage. There were band managers and band road managers of other bands that were locked in cases because they kept pulling the plug out from under us, on and on and on. We never wanted to ever treat an opening band on our show the way we were treated. So we always made sure that the opening bands, who became the biggest bands, AC/DC, you know, Cheap Trick, Rush, everybody. In point of fact, we took Rush out on their first tour as opening for us. When we got to San Francisco, the Tubes were forced on us to be the second band. Rush was placed in third. Geddy Lee came in and was saying that they weren't being treated nicely. We went out of our way to basically ream those guys, the promoters, a new and say, get these guys some food and drink and water, because we're traveling on a bus and everybody's hungry. You will always be remembered by how you treat people. We're equally as proud of our achievements as how we treated the bands that opened up for us on their very first tours, whether in Europe or America. Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, the bands that became the biggest bands, will always remember their experience with Kiss as professional and respectful. However, when we get up on that stage, you're done.
Well, it's an interesting dynamic because when you guys were in a position where you were supporting bands, you were actually told at one point by your booking agent to tone it down because no one wanted to have you open for them. And then the roles are reversed and you're bringing bands out with you, and you actually, having had that experience, I think, wanted to make sure that things were going the right way. The power shifting at this point in the evolution of the band where you guys have the say as to how things are going to go down.
I can remember being in a dressing room and used to hearing an audience respond a certain way to most opening acts. And every once in a while, you'd have an opening act where the audience would be going pretty nuts, and we'd all look at each other and go, uh-oh. And it didn't mean, wow, we're in trouble. It meant we got to turn up the gas tonight. You know, we got to put the pedal down because so-and-so, whether it was Bob Seger, when we were playing the South or Florida, those areas, man, he was just going down, you know, a storm. There was a British band at one point, Uriah Heep, that early on was doing amazingly well. It just made us realize that we got to go out there and show everybody who we are and why we're closing the show. And it was always a good thing. Bring us your best. That's the test.
We have always took a decidedly singular point of view.
Taken?
We have taken and continue to take.
You're the teacher.
A singular point of view, and maybe it's unique, we like to think so, of who our bosses are. They're standing on their seats at Kiss concerts. We just work here. So we've never, to that end, we've never ever thrown a band off tour because they were too good. In point of fact, we would tell them, get out there and kick some butt, give the bosses, our fans, the best you've got.
You say to anyone who's been around for a while, tell me about when Kiss was here, and they'll be able to tell you the story. Hit it! There isn't a month that goes by that I am not contacted by someone from somewhere to recount the story.
The love affair with Kiss that goes on with Detroit and the Michigan area, one of the first places to embrace the band, is documented on this Kissology DVD with the Cadillac footage, where you are actually in Cadillac, Michigan, and participating with a football team and a high school that goes there. And it's really fascinating because the principal, I guess, of the school talks now about the experience 30 years ago. How did it come about that you played and got involved with this high school out of all the places in America?
We were on tour, and all of a sudden we heard about a football team in a place called Cadillac, Michigan, which we'd never heard of before. And this football team was always losing, game after game. And the coach found out that some of the members of the football team were big Kiss fans, and he couldn't inspire them to get up and do the training and get out there and have the will to win. So he devised Kiss plays. He would call out deuce and so on and so forth, and various songs would inspire the guys to do a certain move.
Well, they were actually in their locker rooms before their games. They were listening to Kiss music to pump them up because they were worst aspiring to go to first.
I had seen the band in Flint, Michigan, and they were perfect because they were loud and they were crazy. They were just so outrageous, and their music was just so much fun to listen to. Play their music in the locker room, and our guys will get very loose. And long and short of it is, we won our last 7 games.
And what happened was that the team went on to win school after school after school, and then eventually won either the state championship. The main point is that by the time we got into Cadillac, we were aware that Kiss had evolved. We started off playing songs and literally entered people's lives as a piece of their life. Babies were starting to be named after us. People started to tattoo their bodies with us. Entire football teams decided to use Kiss as mantra, as a new inspirational tool, so much so that if you were an alien and landed in Cadillac, Michigan, you would think all of planet Earth looked like Kiss, because women, babies, everybody was Kiss.
What had happened was, to celebrate the team going into first place, the school and then the mayor and all the politicians invited Kiss to come to Cadillac, Michigan to celebrate Kiss Day.
The big guys from New York City rolling into a small town, there's always a little bit of apprehension, but they put everyone at such ease. From the minute they set foot in Cadillac, they were more than gracious. They were accommodating, posing with pictures. They came into school and they walked up and down the halls and they took pictures with the football team and the cheerleaders and the band and the policemen and the firemen and everyone. And so everyone sort of just got in the mood to have a great time.
The main street was named Kiss Boulevard. There was a huge parade through the town. Literally everybody was in Kiss makeup. The next morning we had breakfast with the city council, the school council, everybody in full Kiss makeup. We were given the key to the city, and I said, I hope now you don't change the lock. And it was really a bizarre experience, but only once again pointing out that we had gone from band to phenomenon. We were influencing people's lives. We were helping people to be better. It was amazing to think that we could be the inspiration not only for ourselves. You know, we had inspired ourselves to attain this greatness, but it could rub off. People could look at us and say, if they can do it, we can do it. You can't always look like Kiss. You can always feel like Kiss.
Get ready for the 6-hour 2-DVD box set, Kissology Volume 1, 1974 through 1977. This truly mind-boggling first volume of a definitive 3-part collection. Volumes 2 and 3 are being ready for release in 2007. Kissology Volume 1, 74 through 77, goes all the way back to one of the band's earliest live performances before tracing the rocket-paced transformation of Kiss into international rock gods. And anyone who knows me knows that when it comes to Kiss, well, it would be hard to find a bigger or more diehard fan, which made one of the true rarities included in this box set especially exciting for me. So we were talking about how Kiss had never been seen without their makeup at this point and how difficult it was to maintain that anonymous structure of the band. But there is footage in an Easter egg on disc number 2 of Kiss's only performance in front of an audience during the makeup era without makeup, which is at Ace's wedding, which is something I never knew existed. So, Paul, what was that all about?
Well, incidentally, when Ace gave us that footage, which he was really kind enough to give us, but wanted it to be in the definitive Kissology, his family was going through some distress and health crises. So it meant that much more that he was very adamant to make sure that that footage got in there. And it's awesome that it's in there because it is the only performance footage from that era when we're actually playing. We're wearing the black outfits. They just happen to be suits or tuxedos. And we were the wedding band for Ace, at least for a few songs. We all got up and rocked out on barred equipment. It was awesome. You know, it was just another moment that showed the chemistry that the band had at that point. Nobody should mistake or confuse that both with chemistry comes combustibility in the case of Kiss. The band had a combustibility about it. The differences in all the personalities at times would come out and wreak havoc. But the fact is that there was a chemistry in the original lineup that was so undeniable. And we really saw ourselves as, you know, a gang, you know, guys who were out there to win. We went out there to win.
Live to win.
Live to win. I couldn't have said it better myself.
There's also a program on here which I had never seen before called So It Goes, which is a British TV show documenting your first time going to England. And I know both of you are very big fans of the music that was coming out of the UK at that time. But I understand that your first visit to the UK wasn't exactly at the standard you had hoped it would be. Gene, you want to pick that story up?
When you live in America, and I wasn't born here, you believe the rest of the world is like this. You believe that the rest of the world, of course, is a push-button world. It's too hot, want to make it cold, press a button. You want to order room service, press a button. You want a pizza, comes to your door, you press a button. 24-hour convenience. It ain't so. When we first went to England, which for us is hallowed ground, the birth of the Beatles, you know, the place where they came from, it wasn't about the Royals, it was about the Beatles. We step off the plane and immediately notice that people are driving the wrong way. It's rainy and drizzly and chilly every day. Eventually we learn that every once in a while people get concerned about the light in the sky, which we call the sun, which seldom comes out there. Don't be afraid of that. We call that the sun. Although everybody was terrific and we were excited as all hell to be there, but the actual process of getting ourselves really comfortable in England for the first time was a shock. First of all, you're not allowed to bring up girls to your hotel. So we were lucky enough, I was lucky enough to meet a girl who wanted to come up, and the doorman stopped me, said, no, you can't bring her up there. Well, she's not staying the night. I'm just going to be friends with her for a while. What kind of a place do you think this is? I'm going, it's a hotel. What do you think? Yeah. No, not allowed to do that. There was no air conditioning. Sandwiches didn't have crust. They had a lot of butter and cucumbers or something in it. Culturally, it was bizarre. The rooms were very small. It was, the cars were small. The people were small. But I tell you what, when we finally hit that stage at the Hammersmith Odeon for the first time, it was amazing. And from what I remember, it was one of the best shows we ever had. I mean, we rocked.
Another moment on Kissology Volume 1, going back into America now. And the first time as a kid I saw Kiss ever on TV was the Paul Lynde Halloween special.
How do you laugh?
And that's captured on this DVD. An event that forever tied Kiss and Halloween together to this day. It still is. Talk about your recollections of doing that show.
I think Paul Lynde was mostly a huge influence on Gene. I mean, so much so that Gene decided he had to do the Hollywood Squares at some point because he saw Paul Lynde. Is that correct?
How did you feel about did you immediately realize that, okay, hey, we're wearing makeup and costumes and Halloween is going to become a Kiss holiday?
I think the coolest thing was that we realized that we were transcending rock and roll. This wasn't a rock formatted show. This was a show that everybody was going to watch. It was a family show to celebrate Halloween with Paul Lynde, who was, you know, everybody in America loved Paul Lynde. He had done Broadway, he'd done film. And for us, an extra bonus was Margaret Hamilton, who actually played the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz, was going to be on the show. And it was a marvel that she could even walk. I mean, but there she was in her green makeup. There we were in our white makeup. And it was the next step for Kiss. It was a celebration of a holiday that almost became connected to Kiss after that. But it was family hour. It was family entertainment as opposed to a TV show that was featuring rock and roll. It was a show where Kiss had a spot. But I remember watching it, and to this day when I watch it, I go, pretty damn cool.
A dream come true for the Kiss Army. Kissology Volume 1, 1974 through 1977. A 6-hour, 2-DVD box set contains seldom seen high points of the band's history, including, as we've been talking about, significant, never-before available material drawn from the band's own personal video vaults. Take it from me, there is a ton of incredible Kiss music and some great performances, 70 plus of them in all. Yep, 4 full concerts, all digitally restored with a 5.1 audio mix. One that's not to be missed, the legendary show in 1977 at Budokan Hall in Tokyo. As we talk about the international appeal of Kiss that's growing as the band is just literally about to become the biggest band in the world at this period, the international scope broadens to include Japan, where you went for the first time and performed at Budokan, a show that was captured as an HBO concert, but interesting, and we should let the viewers know that in this DVD of that show, unlike the original airing, all the songs are in here. That show was cut down to an hour. So you can see the full performance. But I know there's a lot of great stories from Japan and your experience there. So who wants to tackle that one?
Well, I have to say one of the reasons why, and I'm not shy about this, why you're able to see this concert that was originally filmed by a TV station called NHK is because, in retrospect, people have called me an asshole more than once. And I don't know why. I've never had legal training and usually don't have a clue what I'm talking about. But for some reason, I thought I knew it all and I should read the contract. Now, you got to remember, at that point, I'm, I don't know, 25 or 26, 27 years old. And here's this, you know, who do you think you are, kid, looking at a contract that was in broken English, but it was from NHK. And it was given to us to sign. And I remember watching Perry Mason, a TV show, that said, never sign anything without reading it. So I started to read it. And I noticed towards the end of the first page, it said that after filming, broadcasting the concert, NHK would have the rights to rebroadcast it a second time, and then they would own it. And I thought that was a peculiar line, so I crossed that out. Didn't know that you could or couldn't do that. I just didn't like it. So I crossed that out and wrote in, after 2 broadcasts, NHK doesn't own it, Kiss owns it. And I didn't know what owning videos at that point meant, because there was no video market, we didn't own very much at that point. So I literally signed my name on that line. And because of that, for some reason, NHK then gave the master tapes to us, and that show became a version of that show became the very first HBO rock concert broadcast when they first went on the air in the late 70s. And one of the reasons why we have that is because Apple read it, didn't have a clue what we were doing. You know, we're like that in a lot of ways, and Paul will tell you the stories that apply to him.
I will tell you, I'm glad he did that, because I was 12 at the time.
But there are other areas that we get involved in, didn't know about the legalities, and yet knew what we wanted. You can't take a piece of us without our permission. We own our name and our likeness. Even though we're not trained lawyers and aren't qualified to make those assessments, we know when you're taking a piece of us and you don't deserve it. So we've jealously guarded all those issues along the way, and along the way people who want an easy ride have called us more than once.
It's true, because, you know, there certainly is a line used in the music business, as in many. Well, this is the way it's done. And we would go, not with us.
It's an amazing ride that's documented in nearly 6 hours of DVD, Kissology Volume 1, which leads us to believe there will be subsequent volumes. And the one thing I want to say as a fan in discussing all of this stuff, it's an amazing story and an amazing ride to talk about the makeup and the show and the bombs and the mystique of the band. But to me, I don't think we'd be here talking about any of that stuff if the music didn't back it up. And I think that that's really something that is important, that sometimes doesn't get talked about as much with Kiss. To me, the records still hold up, and it's great material. And if you didn't have the songs to back it up, maybe the other stuff wouldn't have meant as much. Do you agree?
A crappy band with a great show is still a crappy band. If our music wasn't as good as it is, we would be a footnote, as many other bands who tried the formula. I'm sure, you know, we could all mention a few bands who clearly were blatantly influenced by us and probably thought, hey, let's put on some makeup and sing anthemic songs. It didn't work, because it's got to have the heart and soul, and it's got to have the music. Without that, it's just sizzle with no steak. And you want to know where the beef is? It's right here.
They call me Dr. Love. They call me Dr. Love. Dr. Love. I am your Dr. Love.
We've heard so many times about the Kiss Vault, where this stuff, I assume, originated from. And this is called Kissology Volume 1, which leads us to believe that 2 is somewhere down the line. What else can fans look forward to after they buy this one?
We're really, you know, we're so blessed because we have everything that has ever been videotaped. We own everything. When TV stations and shows want Kiss footage, they come to us. We have it all. So to be able to put together something that celebrates the band in the way that the fans have always hoped is really the mindset behind Kissology Volume 1, and will be behind the rest. There's so much great footage from all the eras of the band. And the most important one, I think, initially, is the one that sets the tone, which is Kissology 1. To have 6 hours of stuff that's first generation. Sometimes you see bootleg stuff, but let me tell you, everything that's on this 2-disc set has been taken into a studio, remastered, tweaked. It's a really great celebration of everything that this band was and is. And you know, we're very, very proud of it, and proud of the guys in the band. I can't look at this and not say, you know, Ace, Peter, and Gene and myself, you know, we blazed a trail that many have followed, and we're still on it. And
we just scratched the surface, really, in this interview of the early days of what is an amazing story that is continuing to this day, of course, which is the beautiful thing about all this. And there is so much to get into and so many other layers and things to talk to down the line, and I hope to have the opportunity to do it again. And on behalf of all the Kiss fans, thank you for the amazing legacy, amazing music, and amazing memories you've given us. And I mean, it's just great to have this document, this Kissology DVD, all the great stuff, looking and sounding the right way on one package. So continued success, and thanks for the time.
More to come.
Now get out.
Kiss was ready to go on. Right when it went to black, my dad goes, "Come here, we're not sitting here." And I'm like, "What are we doing?"
If I had to go back to one record that you know, I would probably say Kiss Alive.
I remember trying to push my way to the front, and I finally passed out.
And he picks me up, jumps over the rail, and runs to the front row.
All I know is that when I came to, I opened my eyes, and Gene Simmons is about 2 feet from me, with a tongue about that long.
That's the first record I ever bought with my own money. And it's one of those ones that, you know, I always come back to it.
And he goes like this, and he puts me on his shoulders, and I am in a Kiss show.
Candelabras and all this stuff, and I see all this stuff going off.
I am 5 feet from the bombs.
I couldn't, like, live without knowing that I have Kiss Alive with me.
Like, when the flames would go off, I could feel the heat column just go.
Now I have it in my iPod, so, you know, it makes it a lot easier to carry around.
And I was like a little Beatlemania little girl crying.
At that moment, there was a magic that I'll never forget.
It was too much for me.
Kiss Destroyer just destroyed a generation of children, didn't it? But it's so funny.
To afford to pay the $200 a month rent that we were paying at a loft in downtown Manhattan, and all of a sudden having thousands of dollars to buy Marshall amplifiers, just like the bands we had seen all over in concert stages. And all of a sudden we're on stage in a small club wearing full outfits, Kiss outfits, with big 8-inch platform heels. And to say that we were aware of anything else except how we looked, I'd look across the stage and I'd see, wow, that's Paul Stanley, look at that. And there's Ace Frehley. Wow, we look cool. There was an amazing transformation. You were just aware, you know, Earth, here we are. Mm-hmm. There was that blossom. The audience, it wouldn't matter if we were playing to 100,000 people or 300 people. We were Kiss.
One of the earliest performances on here is, the only performance on here that is not on a Kiss album, is a song called Acrobat, early on in, I believe, Long Beach, California. And I thought that was really interesting because, being a fan of all of your music, I picked out little bits and pieces of other songs within this extended jam session. Talk about the origins of that. I think it's a really unique piece to the DVD.
The genesis of the song, it was happening at the same time. I had written a song called Too Young, which had various sections, harmonies, lyrics, and so on. Ace had come up with a beginning riff, and then Paul added to that, and somehow, because we had club shows, we had to figure out how to play longer songs, shorter songs. We didn't have any rules. We didn't think about the 3-minute song. This song went on for as long as 7 minutes sometimes. So we stuck on Ace's beginning bit with the rest of my song, and there was a time change and a different riff change and a key change, and there were modulations and accents and time, and then drum solos. How we kept track of what was coming or what was going, nobody knows to this day. In point of fact, the title has nothing to do with anything. Acrobat was just the title of the song. Could have just as easily been called Too Young, which is one of the lyric chorus bits. And when we eventually recorded Acrobat, the producers, Kerner Wise, said, in Europe, love themes are very popular. Love theme from this and love theme from that. We're going to get rid of the rest of the song, which we recorded, and we're just going to use that instrumental bit, and that's how Love Theme from Kiss came to be. I still hate that title.
And you feel that there's parts of Acrobat that Paul used for Detroit Rock City. I know that's a bit of a debate there.
He will never cop to that.
Gene believes he invented the wheel, so nothing surprises me.
Where was that footage, and take us back to that time and what was going on with the band at that point?
Well, the footage actually was in the possession of Bill Aucoin, our original manager, and he had it for safekeeping. And when we talked about this project and the whole idea of putting out a really soup to nuts, so to speak, box set, it was obvious that that belonged in it. You know, to some people, that's the holy grail. You know, we were at a point in our careers at that point where we had enough money given to us by the record company to get some new amps, and we knew that you know, the good ship Kiss was about to sail, you know, and for us it was exciting because we knew that we could take our cause and this fight for what we believed in worldwide. And it started in New York City, and that particular footage is from Queens, from a club called Coventry.
In '73, a few months before, we were either driving cabs or working in an office and making, in essence, $75 a week. That was our salary to quit our day jobs and start doing Kiss full time. All of a sudden, a record company that's yet to be born called Casablanca decides we're going to be their debut group, their first release. We don't have top 10 singles, we don't play the game, we don't look like John Denver or anybody else at that point. Here's a band that's in your face. Everything was happening so fast and so big, we went from barely able to...
The following program is a special presentation of VH1 Classic.
Credibility is a loser's word.
We were hungry, but it wasn't a hunger for money. It was a hunger to rock. We were hungry to be Kiss.
Tell you what's credible, more credible than the biggest credibility word, is for a band to go out there and pee on the ground and claim their territory like a wild animal does.
We wanted it. And again, it wasn't about fame and it wasn't about fortune. We wanted to be Kiss.
We took things from Las Vegas, from American pop culture, did as we damn pleased, wore the highest shoes and boots, and wore dog collars around our necks, and took big Las Vegas signs and blinded you in the face, and didn't care if you liked it or not. We knew it was good.
I got to tell you guys, Kiss is the band that really started it all and really made me become a music junkie more than 30 years ago. I remember vividly getting my first Kiss album in elementary school, a copy of Kiss Destroyer, just staring at that cover and listening to the intro to Detroit Rock City. And from then on out, I was obsessed with all things Kiss. So it's really with genuine excitement that I tell you about the new Kissology Volume 1, 1974 through 1977. It's a 6-hour, 2-DVD box set that contains seldom-seen high points of history, including significant, never-before-available material drawn from the band's own personal video vaults. And it's available in the VH1 Classic section of Walmart stores and other fine music retailers. There's stuff on here I can tell you I've never seen, and to be honest with you, I thought I'd seen it all. There's also, of course, 4 full concerts, 70-plus performances, all digitally restored with a 5.1 audio mix that's just sensational. It's really a great treat for Kiss fans, as was my recent time with Gene and Paul at the Henson Recording Studios in Los Angeles. So guys, this is truly an amazing collection. Really, as a lifelong Kiss fan, this is kind of like the holy grail of Kiss DVDs. 2-disc set, 74 to 77. It really is something, and I want to start with disc 1, and I guess Easter eggs are what they're commonly called, hidden features on DVDs. It's not too hard to find the ones on this DVD, but when you do, at least on disc 1, it really is something that I had never known existed. It's performance footage of you guys at Coventry in Queens, still a club act at that point.